Auburn head coach Hugh Freeze is gassing up the Oklahoma Sooners as a playoff contender.
You are Locked On Sooners, your daily podcast on the Oklahoma Sooners. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What's up, Sooner Nation? Welcome to Locked On Sooners, and thank you for making Locked On Sooners your first listen every single day. Shout out to all the everydayers out there. Today's episode is brought to you by Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase over at Game Time. He's Jay Smith of Unfair Sports. Go check out his channel, Unfair Sports, over on YouTube for more college football and Oklahoma Sooners coverage. I'm John Williams of Sooners Wire and USA Today Sports. And on today's show, we're going to talk some recruiting stuff. Oklahoma missed out on Peyton Houston. We'll talk about where they go next. We'll go through a few injury updates that Brent Venables provided at the Rudy's Coaches Show. Well, let's start here. Hugh Freeze had his weekly press conference on Monday and was very complimentary of the Oklahoma Sooners, Jay, saying that they are a team that should be in the playoffs discussion. Here's what he had to say on Oklahoma. They've only given up one touchdown this year. They're very stingy, very physical. Obviously, last year had a good experience against them, and he, Brent Venables, does a great job, and he has great players. This is when I watch the tape, I'm looking to me at a team that should be in the playoffs discussion. They're that talented and that good, Jay Smith.
Intriguing statements by Hugh Freeze. It sounds like he's trying to make sure we understand that he has an appreciation for what Oklahoma is doing out there. And that's a very subtle way of him saying, if we lose this game, this is a good team that we're losing to. It feels like he's kind of throwing out a little backtracking here, or he's providing he's hedging on his bets. That's the word for it. It feels like he's hedging now, but no, seriously, that he's right. And that's kind of the thing that me and you, John, have been trying to tell people is that this team is for real. Like, it's a real deal team. It's one that is legit, and we should probably take it seriously. Everybody that in this conference has played teams. They've played cupcakes, and they've played good teams. Some have. And everybody's outcome has been different. Let's not pretend that our outcomes are, we're the only ones that played, quote unquote mediocre competition, because Michigan really isn't mediocre. And we'll talk about that another time, John. But yeah. I thought that was interesting that he feels like Oklahoma is a playoff caliber team. That got my attention.
Is he trying to provide the rat poison for Oklahoma this week?
He is.
It was the Temple folks trying to provide a little bit of bulletin board material. He's trying to provide the rat poison, making everybody think, oh, yeah, we're great. We're high and mighty. No, we've still got a lot to prove as a program. I think we're going to be a good team this year. I think this is going to be a team that's going to be in the discussion come November. And that's when you need to be in the discussion. You don't need to be in the playoff discussion in September. Nobody cares about whether you're a playoff contender in September. All that matters is if you're a playoff contender in November. Remember, Texas was a playoff contender just a few weeks ago, and things are kind of slipping away. Florida was considered a playoff contender by many. Things are slipping away. Notre Dame was considered a playoff contender by a lot of folks, slipping away. So, as Brent Venables mentioned after the game against Michigan, right? You want to be on an upward trajectory throughout the season and continue to get better and better and better. This is just another opportunity to get better for this team and to go challenge themselves against what I think is going to be a good football team. Auburn, I don't know if they're better or worse than Michigan. I think it's debatable because what we saw in week 2 against Michigan was an offensive staff and a coaching staff that realized that their true freshman quarterback was in over his head, and they made sure to protect him in that game. Rightfully so. It was the wise decision by Sharon Moore and that staff to not overexert and overextend Bryce Underwood in that game. You don't want to break a true freshman 2 starts into his career. You've got big picture goals that you want to set with that guy. And I think that Michigan is still a really, really good team. I think Auburn is a good team in aspects. I think that there are ways that Oklahoma matches up very well with this team. But I think, to me, Hugh Freeze is doing a couple different things, showing respect to his opponent, but also maybe just trying to be a little bit complimentary so that Oklahoma gets a little bit high and feeling themselves and they don't bring their A game. But I don't think that that's going to be an issue. As we saw in the build up to Temple, in the Temple game itself, this team is business. It's all about the business. You're not going to get them distracted reading their own newspaper clippings. Not that people read their own newspaper clippings anymore. That's definitely dating myself, but some of our more
read their own headlines,
our veteran everydayers here on Locked On Sooners will understand that reference. They're not going to be out there reading their own press clippings. They're not going to be, taping things to their locker, talking about how great they are. No, they're about the business, and they just got to go 1-0 this week. And I'm not concerned about what Hugh Freeze necessarily thinks about Oklahoma. I'm concerned about how this team performs on Saturday, and I think that they're going to perform well.
Yeah, I like that the mindset, like you said, you're focused on what this team, not really what Hugh Freeze feels, what they feel about themselves and the way that they're going to focus their minds going into this game. Because, like you said, they're not going to look at their own quote-unquote press clippings or the headlines or the tweets from the articles that are tweeting out or the TikToks that talk about them. That's not going to be their focal point. Their focal point is what they need to do on the field. But I don't have an issue with anything that Hugh Freeze has said. I don't even think that he's throwing out their bulletin board material. I think he really feels that way. And again, if there's anything I would feel, I'd say he's most likely hedging because he understands that he's really going up against a good team. And I don't know, the fact that they had to go through the practices where they wanted to build up Jackson's confidence by kind of taking it lightly on him. That kind of feels like where all of this is going. Is more of a, this defense is going to probably turn it up whenever they play against him. And we got to hope that, he's ready to handle that because they're not going to take it easy. There's no red jersey here. There's no blue jersey. There's no orange jersey. Whoever, no matter what the school, there's no jersey that prevents you from getting hit. You will get tackled. We saw what happened to Evan Simon over there at Temple. He said he thought he was going to throw for 300 yards in this game. That man got lucky that he actually got off the ground. They tried to take that boy's head off. They're going to try to do the same thing in this game. Let's just keep it real.
Yeah, and if Auburn comes into this game thinking that they can play grinded out style, run the football, and not have to have Jackson throw the ball 20 to 30 times for them to have a shot at winning, they're mistaken. Oklahoma's going to take the run game away. They're going to take the +1 game away. And Jackson Arnold's going to be forced to drop back to pass. And that's not going to bode well for him or for the Auburn Tigers. I know it's a good Auburn Tigers team. They've got good wide receivers, but Oklahoma's been good against the pass. They've got a good pass rush. They've got a good defensive front. And Brent Venables is going to bring pressure. He's going to try to get Jackson rattled early in this game to see if he can force him into some turnovers. And it's not a great atmosphere or environment for Jackson Arnold to succeed in. Once again, playing on Owen Field is not going to be beneficial for Jackson Arnold.
No, they're going to come after him. And it's going to be fun. It's going to be fun to see how he reacts to it. I'm curious if their wide receiver room is going to be people healthy. Because I guess the health thing is going to be, most important with those wide receivers. I know that, Eric Singleton was dealing with like a bruise or something at one point. So like the list of injuries that they were dealing with going into this game, at least last game was, kind of got my attention. I'm just curious to see what their health actually looks like. And, people are going to play. It's
going to be the biggest test for Cortland Guillory. Going up against Cam Coleman sometimes and maybe even against Eric Singleton at times. It's going to be a big test for Kendall Dolby. We saw him in action this past weekend against Temple. It's going to be a big test for him. Secondary is definitely going to be tested down the field. Jackson's going to try him a few times. This is going to be an opportunity for those guys to show out. But speaking of injuries, we've got some injury updates from Brent Venables from the Rudy's Coaches Show. We'll discuss that and who's going to step up in some of these absences that we're expecting this week for Oklahoma versus Auburn. We'll discuss coming up next year on Locked On Sooners.
This episode is brought to you by Prize Picks, the daily fantasy app where you make the right call can actually pay off. You and I make decisions every day, but on Prize Picks, being right means cashing in. With football back, Prize Picks is the simplest and fastest way to get in on the action. Just pick more or less on 2 to 6 player projections. You can turn your takes into, real prize, all in less than 60 seconds. Like, I was looking at the Baker Mayfield one last night and definitely took advantage of him going more on those touchdown passes because, look, I know that Baker Mayfield is going to do it. And the best part about all of this, even if one of your picks miss, Prize Picks invented the flex play so you can still double your money. So download the Prize Picks app today and use the code Locked On to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. That's code Locked On College for $50 in lineups after your first $5 play. Prize Picks, it's good to be right.
Once again, thanks for making Locked On Sooners your first listen every single day. Shout out to all the everydayers out there. Tune in and subscribe to the show wherever you get your podcasts. We're part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Brent Venables had the Rudy's Coaches Show on Monday and provided a little bit of an update on a couple of players. Let's start with Keontes Lewis, Jay, because I think that's the most significant one. Lewis went out with a concussion after a big hit that should have been reviewed for targeting. We haven't even really discussed that, but Jay, absolutely ridiculous that did not get reviewed for targeting. I get that maybe he was playing the ball, but it was forcible contact to the head to a defenseless receiver. There it is.
Yeah, it would have been nice to get that one because they really kind of did us dirty with that, especially because they were, they got us with the R. Mason Thomas one, and he wasn't trying. You could tell that it wasn't a situation where he was trying to actually hit that dude.
Yep.
You could tell that he was pulling up. So I'm hoping the appeal actually goes our direction. But the good news on the Keontes Lewis front is great. The question is, John, if we don't get him, who at wide receiver do you think is going to be able to play, and who do you think is going to be able to step up?
Yeah, so I'm going to say Giovanni Gibson's going to play this week. But I think it's going to be Zion Kearney that gets most of the snaps on the outside, or Ivan Kerryon, Zion Kearney. But I do think that they're going to try and roll Giovanni Gibson out there to see, are you ready? He's going to go through warmups again, and if he's ready to go, it would not surprise me to see them play him this week.
Giovanni Gibson, that's an interesting one. I know that, like you said, he's been going through warmups. We've seen him out there. So I would not be surprised if he does play, but yeah, I don't know if he's going to get there, but that would be a great gift for us, the people. Because I know that we all want to see him play. We've heard nothing but great things about him. And yeah, that would be intriguing. So since he's been in full pass the last 2 games. Mm-hmm. He's gone through warmups. Mm-hmm. So you think that this is the one where they unleash him? Do you think they unleash him with Keontes or without? Or do you think he plays regardless of Keontes Lewis playing?
I think regardless. I mean, if he's gone through 2 weeks of warmups, that means he's going through practices. That means to me he's ready, but they just didn't feel the need to break him out for Michigan or for Temple. There was no in case of emergency break glass situation with Giovanni Gibson. No need to force him out there because you still had Deion Burks, you still had Isaiah Satania, you still had Keontes Lewis, and I just think that they've been just being patient, biding their time, not trying to rush anything back. But now you have an opportunity where, hey, listen, if Keontes Lewis isn't able to go, you're relying on some young guys in Ivan Kerryon and Zion Kearney on the outside, maybe Elijah Thomas, playmakers, no doubt, but guys that just don't have a lot of experience. If Giovanni Gibson goes through warmups again, does not have any setbacks in practice this week, let him go. Let's play him. Let's see what we got. Now's the time.
Yeah, this really is the time. I'm ready to see. I also don't want to rush him back though, because I want to make sure that he's not like hurt or anything. Like I want to make sure that he's really he's ready to go. So I'm with you on. I would like to give him a few snaps. I think it's good to kind of just see if they're ready. If he not only he ready, but kind of throw things off to their planning, because I don't think they're planning for Giovanni to be on the field. Okay. I know that we are hoping that we do get Keontes because he's been really good. He's been done a fantastic job of just finding open space. That's to me is probably the best attribute we've seen out of him outside of Kanik always being open. And we'll talk about him later, but he does a really good job of finding a spot and setting, and that being where he plays at. So from there, though, John, with R. Mason Thomas' suspension looming, we know that the appeal's happening. BV talked about Daniel Okoye. Who do you think? Do you think Okoye may be that dude that steps in, or who do you think takes that edge spot?
Well, I think they'll start with Taylor Wine and Marvin Jones Jr. I think those are the two that they feel the most comfortable with right now. And I think that's the two that helps them slow down Auburn's rushing attack. That's their strength. That's the group that is going to really dictate this game from an offensive perspective for the Auburn Tigers. If they can run the ball and they can run it effectively, that plays right into their hands. It's exactly what they want to be able to do. They don't want to get into second and long, third and long situations. They really don't. Not against this defensive front. Not against Brent Venables. You don't want to do that. And so if they can run the ball effectively and keep it into 2nd and 6, 3rd and 3 kind of situations, that's their game script for this game. Taylor Wine, Marvin Jones Jr., they've been really, really good and effective against the run. PJ Adebaware, he's been good when he's been out there as well. So you have options. You just don't have the dynamic pass rusher like R. Mason Thomas. And so I could see them on 3rd and long situations deploying Danny Okoye if he's ready to go and saying, hey, just go get the passer. Just go get Jackson Arnold, go get the quarterback, bring him down, and don't worry about anything else when it's 3rd and long. Just go get the quarterback.
Just go get him. That's like literally the only thing that's important is go get the quarterback.
Yep, seek and destroy. That's it. Just seek and destroy. Like you're a heat-seeking missile. That's all you're there to do. It's going to be interesting to see how they deploy that because so much of it is your defensive front is just really good. From the inside out, it's just awesome. It's so awesome to watch. I was watching back the game against Temple the other night, and my goodness, there's just so much talent on the interior. I can even see that. It wouldn't surprise me to see them go with some 3-man fronts and with Jaden Jackson at the nose and Dominic Williams and David Stone playing more 5 techniques as defensive ends and really throwing everything off. And then going with more of a 4 kind of a linebacker alignment where you've got 2 cheetahs on the field with Kendall Daniels and Reggie Powers III and just getting a little bit crazy out there if you don't have R. Mason Thomas and then you're bringing your rush from a lot of different directions with blitzers and things like that. So I'm sure Brent Venables has got some things that he's cooking up. It's going to be pretty fun and fascinating to see what happens.
Yeah, I'm really intrigued at what the defensive sets are going to be and how he's going to switch things up, especially since Jackson Arnold's seen this defense for 2 years. He should have some sort of an idea of what's coming his direction, while at the same time, this defense don't look like the one it did last year.
I mean, so here's the thing. He does have an idea of what this defense could look like, but for all the wrong reasons from Jackson's perspective. Like if everything out of spring ball last year and fall camp was accurate, I mean, the defense was absolutely cooking the offense. Like the offense could barely even practice. Some of it because of injury, but some of it because the defense was just so dominant.
And so the defense was dominant.
Like when he's thinking about Oklahoma's defense, like that's the lasting impression that he has, maybe. I mean, I don't know. Like if you're Jackson Arnold, you want to think as little about Oklahoma as possible, except for what you have to look for with giving keys and in different situations and blitz packages. You probably don't want to be thinking about them at all.
That's true. Yeah. You don't want, yeah. That's a very good point. That's a very good point there. So I guess now what do you think are the chances that Keontes plays as well as Danny Okoye, since BV's mentioned them, and we'll probably hear more about him a little bit later in the presser that he has, but what percentage chance would you get that they're playing?
Well, we'll get the injury reports later this week too. So
yeah, we will. That is true.
If they're both probable on the SEC availability reports. Thank you, SEC. Thank you, Greg Sankey, Papa Sankey. This is the gift that keeps on giving. We love this. Yeah. Now the next big item on your agenda is all 22 film for subscription services like the NFL does. Like that's the next item on your agenda. But thank you for the availability reports, Papa Sankey, because those are awesome, man. It's just so nice to be able to have a little bit of an expectation of what coaches are dealing with and what the injuries that Oklahoma's dealing with. For Keontes, I'm going to put it to like 10% that he plays. He was down on the ground for a long time.
He really was.
Before he got up. And I don't imagine they're going to look to rush him back. Remember, Dylan Gabriel was in a similar situation 2 years ago. Got that big hit from TCU defender had him on the ground for a long time, sat out the Texas game. So if they would sit a guy out as important to that team as Dylan Gabriel was, sorry, not 2023, 2022 was when Gabriel had to sit out. 2023, Dylan Gabriel cooked them Longhorns, made him some steaks. If he was important, if it was so important to take care of a guy like Dylan Gabriel in a similar situation, I imagine they're going to look to do the same thing with Keontes Lewis.
I feel the exact same way. I think that precaution is critical, and they're taking all this stuff serious when it comes to injuries, especially after what happened last year. So as they should, right? And especially with the head injury. And so if he's able to practice this week, I think he's going to end up playing. I'm at the 60% range. I think that he ends up suiting up and actually hitting the field. Okoye didn't suit up at Temple, but it sounds like I guess he's going to probably be back. I'm going to give him probably an 80% chance, especially with the looming R. Mason Thomas suspension. Makes sense to go ahead and unleash him. He is the most athletic dude, and we're playing against a very athletic quarterback. So to me, it's probably good to put the guys out there that can leverage athleticism and make that dude work harder. And I think that it's a very good idea, because I think that Auburn's going to run like crazy. I don't think they're going to pass much. And we'll talk about that as we break down the game, but I really don't think they're going to throw the ball a lot.
I mean, they're going to really try to harness that Oklahoma versus Alabama 2024 game plan where Arnold maybe throws it like 15 times. That's going to be their hope. But I just think Oklahoma's too good up front for that to actually last very long in this game. I'm going to put Danny Okoye playing around 90%. I think he's back. I don't think Brent Venables would have mentioned it unless he expected him to come back.
Me too.
So, all right. Oklahoma suffered a loss on the recruiting trail. Wah, wah, wah. We'll discuss that coming up next here on Locked On Sooners. Today's episode is brought to you by Game Time. College football is back, and I couldn't be more excited. The tailgates, the rivalries, the energy in the stands, there's just nothing like it. But let's be real, actually getting tickets can feel like more of a battle than the game itself. Endless queues, hidden fees, prices jumping at checkout. That's why I use Game Time, the app that gives the advantage back to the fans. It's the easiest way to score last-minute tickets at the best prices with no surprise fees. What you see is what you pay. Listen, I pulled up the Game Time app for the Oklahoma versus Auburn game, and I'm seeing tickets as low as like $126. Like for a big-time SEC battle, a top 25 showdown in Norman in the afternoon. I mean, you can get into the lower bowl for under $300 if that's where you're looking to set. I'm seeing $187 in the lower sections as well. So some great tickets available over in the Game Time app. All you got to do is go download the Game Time app, create an account, use promo code LOCKEDONCollege. That's LOCKEDONCOLLEGE to get $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. But again, that's promo code LOCKEDONCollege. Swipe, tap, ticket, go download Game Time today. Again, thanks for making Locked On Sooners your first listen every single day. Shout out to all the everydayers out there. Tune in and subscribe to the show wherever you get your podcasts. We're part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Jay, Peyton Houston has committed to the LSU Tigers, the Bayou Bengals.
Yeah, it's really hard to get Louisiana kids to leave the state of Louisiana. And
it's true.
So it's not that much of a shock. They find their way of convincing them to stay. I mean, one of the bigger things is the travel. If you keep them close enough, even though Shreveport, it's kind of a trek over there into Baton Rouge, but it's a lot easier than trying to do like the Oklahoma trek. So I kind of get why that was the push by them. Plus, at the same time, their quarterback that they have in their backyard, Elijah Haven, he's the number one in some rankings, the number one quarterback in the 2027 class. He's a local kid in Baton Rouge, but he's not from there. He's kind of a transplant. I've heard that he's actually from the state of Florida. So it makes sense that the Gators have kind of the other swamp has an inside track with him
for now.
But I'm going to be honest. I'm really surprised that they had to have put all their chips in on Peyton Houston, because Colton Nussmeier's right there in Flower Mound, Texas, 6'3", top 100 player in the 27 class. I figured that was the quarterback. But I'm guessing the Nussmeier experiment they have right now is telling them they don't want to deal with another one. I don't know why, but that dude has been so loyal to that program. His family has, I've heard, been great, that I would have just kept it all there. But I mean, if I'm Oklahoma, to be honest, I'd go after little Nussmeier. There's a few other options out there, quarterback they're going to go after. But hey, I'd pick up the phone and be like, hey, Colton, you want to come play in Oklahoma? You know, after what we do to your brother, you should come join the Sooners.
Yeah, it was kind of surprising to me to see that. I was busy working on some other things for Sooners Wire, and then I looked up and like, oh yeah, Peyton Houston's committing. Oh wait, he already committed. What? I was expecting this big, later in the afternoon announcement and some kind of, 247 Sports or On 3 show, but no, he pulled a Bo Bentley and just dropped the graphic and committed to LSU, and it kind of surprised me. And I was getting the kids off to school in the morning, so I missed the Steve Wiltfong prediction flip again.
Mm-hmm.
The flip, the snip, snap of Steve Wiltfong that occurred. I think don't drop prediction flips morning of that. To me, you're hedging yourself. Just say you took an L and it's fine. It's fine.
I mean, he put an article out about it the night before. Like, he put it out Sunday night and said that with intel and conversations he's had, I'm going to go ahead. We're all flipping our stuff because of what we just heard tonight. Yeah. And so I was like, I mean, it makes sense. Like, the morning of, I don't like. I get if you drop an article the night before to let us know. So, but yeah, it kind of, it sucks. Peyton Houston was one I really like. He's very talented. Like, I saw him at BV's camp. Mm-hmm. John, I was there, and I got a couple videos of him. Oh my goodness, he looks really good. Now, I mean, he's like the size of Kyler, and I'm totally okay with that because he's that talented. It's just, it sucks, but at the same time, I think that Ben Arbuckle has a few more options that he can go after.
Yeah, I'm not concerned about Oklahoma's quarterback recruiting. I trust Ben Arbuckle to be able to identify something that's going to work in his offense. Remember, John Mateer was a 3-star prospect that had one Power 4 offer. I guess Washington State was in the Power 4 at that time when he got the offer, or the Power 5 when the Pac-12 was still alive. Had one Power 5 offer coming out of high school, and here we are. So I trust Ben Arbuckle to be able to identify quarterback talent. It's just now you have to kind of reset your quarterback pursuits, your quarterback evaluations, because they haven't really offered a ton of guys. According to 247 Sports, they've offered 3 guys. One was Peyton Houston. One was Trey Taylor that's committed to Nebraska. And then one was the kid out of St. Louis that I really like. I think he's got a lot of potential. Maybe that's the direction that they go, but he's an unrated prospect. Now, Jim Nagy is not concerned about stars. He doesn't care about any of that. So
they do their own evals.
This could be the kid that they end up going after and trying to secure. We'll see. I mean, the quarterback situation is in pretty solid shape moving forward with, you have John Mateer this year. He's got eligibility for next year. You have Michael Hawkins Jr. and Whit Neubauer and Bo Bentley that will be coming in 2026. Jet New is around as well, who looks like a really, really solid pocket passer. So I think I think you're in pretty solid shape still. It's just still a bummer to lose a big time recruiting battle, one that you were battling with USC and Lincoln Riley for. We're able to regain momentum in that recruiting battle. And then ultimately on the eve of, you lose it to LSU. It's kind of a stinker, but I understand too. LSU has been a really good quarterback program for the last decade. Jaden Daniels, Joe Burrow, they've done a good, Garrett Nussmeier, they've done a good job. That's okay. Am I saying they're QBU, Jay? No, I'm not. Don't make that face at me. The fact of the facts.
I'll say this.
Since 2019.
I'll say this. LSU fans probably would not agree with you on what their current quarterback coach has done when it comes to quarterbacks.
Not the last decade. Maybe the last
And I say that specifically because I think that that's where you're going to hear a lot of LSU fans kind of balk at, especially because Oklahoma beat them out for Bo Bentley, who is going to be a really good prospect. Mm-hmm. So just keep that in mind. We did win a recruiting battle against them. Yeah, we took him. But I wanted to pivot to one thing, though, before we jump out of here, though, John. I know you saw those firings that happened over the last 24 hours, right? Virginia Tech as well as UCLA. We kind of talked about that. But there's a couple of players that Oklahoma could potentially go after. Now, granted, UCLA, I saw a post. UCLA has not actually started classes yet because they're in the quarter system. Really weird.
That's crazy.
Exactly, right? Very weird. But that doesn't really mean much, mainly because you still can't play for 2 teams in one season. So anybody that transfers are guaranteed to have to sit. So keep that in mind. But we've seen decommits not like crazy. And remember, Stacey Ford spent some time out there in California. He is from said area. Do not be surprised if Oklahoma are potential players for certain athletes that could be coming out of the West Coast. I mention that specifically because Stacey Ford has some ties in that area. I think that that's something we're going to keep our eyes on. We're going to dig into their roster. I want to dig into their roster and see who the potential is there. But remember, the director of player personnel and retainment has connections that he can have conversations with now that 30-day window has opened.
Yeah, I mean, he was on that staff.
I know.
Like, he was on UCLA's staff. So like,
right.
You're kind of
I didn't want to go that far into, I know people know, but yeah, exactly.
And we're not saying go after Nico Yamayama, don't do that. But there are going to be some players on that team that you're going to have some interest in. You know, players that got recruited and retained by that staff that do have a little bit of talent. So we'll see where they go. But yeah, it's going to be kind of a free for all. Like, everybody's going to be trying to get their hooks in on a lot of these kids, but it's a fascinating thing. The other thing that could come up in the next few weeks is Billy Napier. He could find himself fired if things keep going the way they're going for Florida. They got Miami this week. The schedule does not get any easier after that. He could be one of those guys that gets let go. And then all of a sudden, all these Florida Gators could be available via the transfer portal, or decommitments could happen that open the door for teams like Oklahoma, who recruit the Florida area well as well. So these midseason firings, I don't know if we're going to see schools do that very much after we see what happens this year.
Yeah, that's it. The firing this early, I think for some it's getting ahead of the curve. I mean, I guess institutionally the way they're playing is just like, it's not going to get any better. We may as well just cut our losses and start the hunt for some jobs. But don't be surprised when our name is mentioned in a lot of these jobs. There's going to be some of our coaches that people are going to go after. Sucks, but that's the good thing about being good.
It is. Board of Regents, you're up. Time to make some raises happen and retain some coaches. But that's going to do it for today's episode of Locked On Sooners. Thanks so much for tuning in and being a part of the show. Subscribe to the show wherever you get your podcasts. We're part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Follow Jay at Unfair Sports. Go check out his channel, Unfair Sports, over on YouTube. You can follow me at John9Williams and read my work covering the Sooners over at SoonersWire.com. The show is at Locked On Sooners on all your favorite social media platforms. But until next time, he's Jay Smith. I'm John Williams. We'll talk to you then. Boomer
Sooner. That was a good one, John. A lot of power.
Oh yeah, we're so excited for Auburn week.
Gosh, bring it.